Welcome to episode 7. Today we're going to talk about clients and we're going to talk about some of the things that we're seeing year to date that are not completely uncommon, but maybe just a tweak here or there from what we're normally seeing. Lots of examples. Alex, why don't you jump in and talk about some of the more recent ones we've had, and we can go back and forth because I think I'm pretty clear on why we're seeing some things differently in terms of what we're seeing in the data, but there's also some other sides to this topic that we kind of want to address here. So kick it off and we'll go from there.
Yeah, I love this topic. Thank you. I think the most important thing here is talking about agency and dealership relationship first and foremost, and what that relationship should look like. In essence, every agency should be coming on to a call and showing performance improvement or performance issues and starting to point out reasons and solutions on how to fix that. Because not everything can be controlled by marketing, and marketing's not going to fix all your problems. And so if you're hiring a marketing agency to solve some form of operational deficiency, it's only going to make that operational deficiency worse. And what's worse of all of that is you're going to have spent more money in the process. So now cash flow is impacted, all these other things are impacted. I digress. What's really difficult is that there are 5% of agencies out there that have burned relationships so severely with dealerships that when you get on, it becomes a blame game about, I don't trust the data you're saying, even though the data is coming from your own dashboards and your own analytics properties. I don't trust the conversions. How are you marking them? Nothing is gained by having that conversation. Nothing other than, what did you do for me lately? And then things start to get contentious. Where things really, and we've got great partners. We've got fantastic partners that are out there. These dealers are amazing. 2-3 years of relationship, joining calls every single week, engaged, and have trust. And then there's a few that will come in there and will be like, I don't believe you, and that's fine. And that it's completely fine. But let's structure conversation so that A, we can understand your pain, B, try to solve it and do things from a marketing perspective that will get it to push forward. And the other thing is we set up our data, and to your point, Dave, we set up our data a very specific way. We don't set it up so that we can tell you what happened 30 days ago. We are all about what's happening right now and what can we predict in the future, because we need to be setting up our marketing platforms 30, 60, 90 days in advance. It does us no good to start talking about what we're going to do at the end of February and it's February 16th. February's over. What you did in the previous month is likely impacting what's happening now. And I think people forget that. So to those that are looking at analytics and seeing behavioral increases and seeing their agency doing their job, cut them some slack. Cut them some slack. It's a difficult job. You guys are difficult to please. We're good with that. We signed up for it. And when we do get to that place where we're pleasing you, it's a wonderful relationship. But by all means, what did you do for me lately? I think we need to get rid of that as an industry. I don't know, Dave. I mean, I could talk on this for 5 hours. It impacts my life so much being client facing. But
Yeah, and I think from my perspective, I don't need the credit, and the blame, to your point, is probably not the more productive thing to look at. What we're trying to do is drive quality, not quantity, quality traffic that converts, that doesn't cannibalize your organic. So if we can show we're doing that, that means we're giving you the opportunities you need to generate the sales numbers you're trying to get. It's pretty much that simple. With the way we look at data, we're going to be able to tell you, to Alex's point, not at February 16th. By then, what's going to happen is going to happen. And we will have told you that earlier in the month or even in the prior month. So from a data standpoint, some of the things we've seen that are maybe slightly off center is what I alluded to earlier. People are cautiously dipping their toes in the market, so there's not demand that's as clear as we may have seen it in the past. It's more people are taking a little bit longer on the research. So instead of coming out of research and being like flying down that funnel into low funnel and saying I want to buy this car in this area near me, that's taking a little longer. But it's we work with a dozen plus brands and we're seeing very similar trends across almost all of them. So we know that and we're telling the dealers this. We're saying, hey, your close might be 60, 70% of what you were hoping in February. And we're pretty accurate on that. But we know March is when things are going to start to hit, and that's spring selling season. And this isn't us just saying the same old line that maybe a lot of agencies would say. We're backing it up with data, and we can tell them specifically what we think is going to happen, which models, we're tracking all that stuff. So our approach is different, and we're being very specific about it. It's just that the market's slightly different than what we've seen, not to a large degree, but to enough that we can tell them within our percentages what we think is going to happen. Which leads me to another point, which I'll kick off and then I'll kick back to you, Alex. But it's how we approach that relationship. We give them 30 days. So our contract is they can get out within 30 days. It's month to month. We've got competitors that are out there trying to sign long-term contracts. We've had dealers come to us many times saying, how do I get out of this? With us owning an agency, we feel like we got to prove it every month. And I don't see the value of trying to hold someone to a contract if they're not happy. A lot of customers or clients have gotten, hurt at some point in their journey of being a dealer. We're not the ones that are going to hurt you, and we understand. Hey, if you're not happy, I'm not going to hold you to something other than with the 30 days. It just, who wants to be a company that has that reputation or isn't open to, to saying, hey, we dated, but we're not going to get married.
Yeah, there's some extremely weird stuff going on contractually. Some of the stories that we've heard are just a bit crazy. But that being said, I think everyone understands wanting to secure long-term relationships, but you can't force them, right? You can't force the issue by sitting here and structuring a contract so that it's equitable on both sides, but it's more equitable for the person structuring the contract than not. And I think it's an important point that you pointed out in the earlier topic where we were talking about, February and just hanging in there and that things are going to come. And, historically, when you look at January and February in the automotive industry, it's been relatively slow. Well, why is that? Why is that? It's because you just came off a 6-month selling cycle that led into this crescendo, which is the winter selling season. And 60-70% of the customers that were there to buy have purchased or made a decision and have moved out of the market. And so now you've got 2 months consecutive back to back of building up, of research, of getting back to that point where March hits and all of a sudden you've got spring selling season starting. You've got all these other things. It happens every single year. But some reason every year, and I get why, everyone is really performance driven. But for some reason every year, someone wakes up and says, not this year, I'm going to kill it on these 2 months that are typically slow and I'm going to make my mark. It just doesn't work like that. It can in times of extreme incentivization. I can think of times post 2008 where that occurred and you saw just crazy influxes, but we're not there yet. We are seeing 0% coming back. We are seeing EVs incentivized. We're seeing more subvened rates. Probably going to see a lot more. But we're here to just, to Dave's point, we structure contracts very simply. We're here to please. We're here to perform. We don't keep our job unless our content and our process and procedures perform. And we sure don't make it through all the adversity that we've made it as a company over the last 4 years by not doing what it is that we say we're going to do. And I think that's the most important distinction. When we tell you something, it's happening exactly that way.
Yeah, and I think that the last point that I maybe want to end on is, we had a client that we've had for, I think, 3-4 years. And they came to us with this, which we found really interesting. They went out and did their due diligence, which, we support that. They went out and they talked to every different agency and provider they could find. The owner wanted to make sure that what they were getting from us was unique and was best in class. They came back and they said they were so frustrated. They said they couldn't get their questions answered. And they said, frankly, we couldn't believe the extent that we've been spoiled by having you guys. Like, essentially that they kind of took us for granted. And I'm not saying this to like pat ourselves on the back.
No.
But what I am saying is, to the point Alex just made, we want to make sure that whatever we tell you we're going to deliver, that we're delivering. And that hopefully it's something that they can't get somewhere else. And that is exactly what we found. So to the point about, are we bringing the value? Are we easy to do business with? And are you getting the results? If you got a client that's been with us 3+ years and goes out and shops the market and comes back and says, it was a waste of time for me to even do that, that means a lot. And that proves out, at least in that case, with 3 different stores we have with them, that we're living into what we're selling. And that's hugely important to us. So we feel good about that. If anyone wants to challenge us on that or talk in more detail about that, please reach out. We're definitely open to having that conversation. So everyone, have a great day. Have a great rest of the week. And we'll be back with episode 8 shortly.
Thanks all.